Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. The day continues to be lovely. We could just have this weather all year long and I'd probably be happy. I mean, I know it wouldn't work out for a lot of things, but still it's one of those nice mid-70s, just a slight breeze, beautifully clear skies. And after the storms that we had for the last few days, this is very much welcomed. I have a list of important news things to share with you. I wasn't intentionally originally planning to do a news brief today, but there's just so many things that I've come across, and they're kind of random, somewhat, but as always, there's a pattern to things. And I think many of you will start to see that as I'm running through these. I think it just shows more and more of the stuff that's piling up, how deep it's getting. And when I say deep, I'm talking about the culmination of all the stuff that we've gone through over the last 4 years. It's starting to come together, whether it's World War III or the pandemic or the economy collapse or people coming across the border illegally, or the election, and all of that, the New World Order, the Great Reset, all of it. And so I wanted to go through some things. The first part, it's that there's definitely, I think, a pattern there. And maybe I'm out there in left field or right field or somewhere else when it comes to this as far as a conspiracy. And I get it. This is a conspiracy. Those aren't always necessarily bad, and they're certainly not always fake. But you remember a week or two ago when the president, I guess it's been a couple of weeks now, the president of Iran was killed in a helicopter accident. Now, of course, the Iranian government and pretty much everyone has said it was completely an accident, just a total accident. Maybe it was. But I don't know. I kind of tend to think that there could be a pattern. And I know a lot of you might just think that, if one of the good guys dies, that's bad. If one of the bad guys dies, it's good. But when it comes to how they're doing these world leaders and how they're doing this big takeover, you understand that the people that are really pulling the strings are way above presidents and prime ministers. And sometimes, that this person has fulfilled his service, and, get him out and put the next guy in to take things further. So, it's not like they want to just always keep Joe Biden in. They may already have a plan to get rid of Joe Biden if they feel that he's fulfilled his purpose, so that the next guy can get in and further their cause. So anyways, going back, the president of Iran was killed in a helicopter crash. And then yesterday I mentioned that the the prime minister of Belgium resigned. Could be just a coincidence, right? The vice president of Malawi was in a plane crash today. His plane is missing, and he's presumed missing, maybe even dead. And then this one kind of caught my eye. John Fetterman and his wife were in a car wreck today. They're in the hospital. And John Fetterman's kind of a unique, kind of strange one that I don't know. And I don't know if you've been following this, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, he's that guy from, up in Pennsylvania, who was elected. And remember, the guy was, when he got elected, he just acted and talked like he didn't have enough sense to come in out of the rain. And then just a few weeks after he got elected, all of a sudden he had to take time off because it was this mental stress. Like he couldn't, it was like he was having a breakdown. And then he comes back and he was even worse. And remember, there's all these different pictures. He looks totally different every time you see him. It's like he's got a different mask on every time you see him. And he had this big old knot on the back of his neck. And he got worse and worse to the point that, he was making Joe Biden look smart. Like, you couldn't understand a word he was saying. He was just mumbling and bumbling through things. And it was awful. And then this is the guy, that shows up in the gym shorts and a hoodie to the Senate chambers, right? And then all of a sudden, the guy looks really good. That knot's gone. He's talking really eloquent, smart. And this is the big one. All of a sudden, he's like a conservative. Like he was crazy left field liberal. And now all of a sudden he's against all the transgender stuff. He's against big government. He's against all these things. And just the other day, and I thought, this is strange. Something's up. I don't remember the exact details, but he was doing some kind of interview, and he actually kind of almost hinted that he's not really a Democrat anymore. At least he's not really a lefty anymore. That he's starting to see that maybe there's other viewpoints and stuff. And then all of a sudden, he ends up in a car wreck with his wife and in the hospital. I don't know. It could be nothing. It could just be a coincidence, but I'm not a big believer in coincidences, so I guess we'll have to see. The jury is now deliberating in the Hunter Biden trial. This is the one on his gun charges. And, of course, we all know that the justice system will be fair and will prevail, right? That the truth and fairness will prevail. So we'll see what happens there. If convicted of what they've charged him with, he could face 25 years in prison. I have a feeling that's not anywhere close to what's going to happen. But anyways, now let's get on to the big stuff going on in the world. I've been talking a lot about Russia and World War III the last several videos. And it's not because all this other stuff going on isn't important. It's because this seems to be heating up in a way that we've not seen. Certainly not since the Cold War. And we may be getting into areas that's even worse, beyond worse, more than the Cold War. Russia says today that the United States has failed as a leader of the world order. That's interesting. That they failed as a leader of the world order. And they've used their power and they've used their currency to control and cause chaos around the world. And that it needs to change. There needs to be a new world order leader. Iran, get this one. Listen up, folks. And I'm almost quoting verbatim, not quite, but Iran says that the main goal of the BRICS system that they're developing is to reform the Bretton Woods system. If you don't know what Bretton Woods is, shame on you. You need to go look it up and understand. The rest of you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And for Iran to make this statement and say that that's, I mean, you and I already kind of knew that, right? But they're going way out there, you know. Just recently, BRICS has been talking about, you know, being the top of the world order, that establishing a new currency, of debasing the U.S. currency, all this kind of stuff. And now they're saying that their goal is to reform and change the whole Bretton Woods system. That's interesting. Russian ships are now docked in Cuba. They showed up today. I think there's 8 there. There's also sub. There's definitely enough there that wouldn't destroy us, but could certainly do some damage, at least along the south. Russian TV, and of course, Russian TV says things that aren't always true, just like American TV. But Russian TV claims that Russia is planning on deploying nukes to Cuba, Mexico, and Argentina, which is similar to what Russia has said, that they will be deploying and they will be giving weapons to enemies of the United States. So we'll be seeing how that one works out. Interesting, isn't it? Reports are also coming in from Russian people. I've actually heard this directly. I had someone contact me, and they have, I can't remember if it was a friend or family that's in Russia, but I've also seen a few other reports online saying very similar things, that inside Russia, the Russian people are pretty much, they get it. They know that Russia and the United States are going to war, and probably before the end of this year. And they said that, like, this whole feeling, the sentiment in Russia is to start preparing for it. And most of the Russians are not opposed to it. They're gearing up. They're getting ready. There's just this whole mood that they know that they are at the doorstep of World War III. And it's a shame that Americans aren't quite waking up to that. And then the last thing is mostly comes from one of you. You may be watching this too. You don't have to speak up and say anything, because I know you wanted to have some anonymity, so I'm going to be careful about that. One of you wrote in to me, and I know you're going to say, oh, well, how do you know this is true? I don't know if this is true or not, but it was a very detailed, very lengthy email. And usually when someone puts that much time and effort, and it wasn't all, I mean, it was an intelligent story. It wasn't, you know, Billy Bob Thornton trying to write me an email that made no sense, or someone's just cussing me out. I got called a Taliban operative this week. Thought that was kind of funny. It was because I made a statement that I wasn't sure if Alex Jones was real, or if he was if he was a CIA operative. And I had someone email me and call me all kinds of nasty things. I thought it was hilarious. It was quite enjoyable. Anyways, back to the story. This guy sends me an email, and he was going to a shooting competition, gun shooting competition. And this one, it was held at night, and they were using suppressors. And they were at this gun club, and this vehicle pulled up, and a couple of Asian men, military-aged Asian men, get out, and they're in black military uniforms with, they were all identical, patches, everything, not American. And they had weapons, they had suppressors, and they were there. They just randomly showed up to this event wanting to participate. They weren't members, they hadn't paid anything, but they showed up wanting to participate. And a few minutes later, an entire van load of them showed up, all of them dressed the same. And it appeared as if they were definitely, you know, certain ones would be because I guess they allowed them to participate in this competition. And so some of them would be shooting, and others would be kind of the rear, you know, reloading and getting the weapons ready. He said they weren't that great. They weren't good at shooting, but he did find it very strange. They didn't speak English, or very little broken English, a couple of them. But he said they definitely looked like they just got off the boat, so to speak. And they all looked military, and they were all wearing black with blacked out patches and everything identical. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's nothing. But I don't know. I mean, there has been, at the probably most conservative estimate, 500,000 or more of military-aged Chinese males come across this country's borders illegally. And honestly, we don't know fully how many. And it's something to think about. And I don't think it's always just going to be the Chinese illegals that's going to be doing everything bad. There's been many, many, many illegals coming from other countries. And in fact, there was a report just the other day, and this is since Biden did his executive order to shut the border down, which actually has caused nothing different to happen. Like, nothing different is happening. And one of the reporters on the border got a hold of a memo, an interoffice memo to Border Patrol agents, and it was listing countries to basically, if you catch people from this country, we're going to start the process of going ahead and kicking them out, right? And if you catch people from this country, they basically stay here and have to go through the court system. And it was only, I think it was only 6 countries listed that they would boot out. And it was countries in, you know, south of the border that may not be that big of a threat anyways, other than just coming here for whatever reasons. But all the countries that would immediately have a warning bell go off in your head, that we certainly wouldn't want people like, you know, from those countries coming here illegally because they could be doing harm. They just come in, and, you know, if they get caught, they get a court date, you know, 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, and the whole time they're here. So in other words, nothing has changed. And we all knew that. We all knew that, and it's going to just continue to worsen. It was just a bone that Biden tried to throw so that now later on they can spin a lie and say, oh, no, Biden did this, you know, executive order, and it's caused all these people to stop coming in, and even though it'll completely be untrue. Big point is, folks, is that the stuff that I just talked to you about and many other things that should be the warning bells going off in your head, that things are progressing quickly. And could we be in the midst of World War III by the end of this year, before the end of this year, before the election, in less than 3 months? I think it's certainly possible. And I'm not saying this to terrify you. I'm not saying this to get you to click and like things more. If you want to like the video and subscribe, hey, that's up to you. I'm telling you this to get you to wake up. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if we're wrong? You've stocked up a little bit more. You've developed some skills. You've made new friendships with your neighbors. None of those things are really that bad of a deal. But if I'm right, in any way possible, and you've done nothing more, how upset are you going to be? It's not a risk that I'm willing to take for me personally. I think we should be prepping up. There's a lot of things that you can get done in the next 3 months, if we have that long. And if I were you, I'd be taking as much time and expense and effort as possible to get as ready as you possibly can, because these things that I'm mentioning, they're just scratching the surface. But they're not just random things that just are coincidental. These are things that are really pushing the game further down the road to a point that I'm pretty sure these people that are ruling everything want it to be. And that means bad news for us. So you need to be getting your houses in order. You need to be preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next video.